and observe a minute of silence in memory of this tragic event which occurred 24 years ago at the Polytechnique.
Merci.
Thank you.
Question orale.
Oral questions.
The honourable member for Vancouver East.
Mr. Speaker, the tragedy of L'École Polytechnique shocked us at the time and 24 years later continues to affect us. Today, our thoughts are with the families of the women who lost their lives on December 6, 1989. But we also remember that women continue to face violence in their workplaces and in their homes. Mr. Speaker, can the Minister tell the House what is this government's plan to eradicate violence against women in our communities?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for the Status of Women.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and our hearts and prayers go out to the families of the 14 women. Our government recognizes that violence against women and girls is a sad reality and takes a heavy toll on individuals and communities. And that is why we are taking action across the country to combat violence against women through measures such as greater resources to support victims of crime and protecting Aboriginal women, launching a national action plan to combat human trafficking, just to name a few. Mr. Speaker, this was already an atrocious act, but even more so when you consider the motivation that was behind it. This government will always stand up for women and girls, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Vancouver East.
Mr. Speaker, December the 6th is a day of remembrance and action, and words must be backed up with a resolve to act. Women continue to be victimized, facing violence at home, work, and in their communities. We're still not doing enough to support safe environments for women escaping violence. The tragedy of the missing and murdered Indigenous women has affected generations. Will the Minister listen to the victims, listen to their families, and agree today to convene a national inquiry?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary for the Status of Women.
Speaker, this government is committed to women and girls across Canada, and we are reminded that violence and the threat of violence remain daily realities for so many women and girls. That is why we are committed to preventing all forms of violence against women and girls throughout Canada. Let us all work together so women and girls can live free of violence. And, Mr. Speaker, this government has done more for women and girls across Canada than any other government. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Vancouver East.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the sad reality is that while rates of violent crimes are dropping, rates of violence against women are not. Being tough on crime must also mean making a priority of protecting women and girls from violence. Will the Minister demonstrate her commitment to ending violence against women and support the member from Churchill's motion for a national action plan to end violence against women?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, our hearts and prayers go out to the families of the 14 women. But our government is committed to preventing all forms of violence against women and girls. And since 2007, we've invested over $62 million in funding for over 300 projects to end violence against women and girls. And, Mr. Speaker, this is the highest level ever in the history of our government. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Laurier-Sainte-Marie.